Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have Mr. Matt King in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you and your community today and hopefully pour some wisdom and value into them and their lives.
I appreciate that, man, and thank you for taking the time. I know your schedule's busy. You know, the tagline of the podcast is Construct Your Life, how to build a lifestyle, not a bank account, right? And even though, you know, you deal with high net worth individuals, it feels like to me when I hear you speak, you never, even though you might be dealing with big deals, you're never disconnecting from like the meaning of it, the servant leader stuff. And, you know, how do you really, stay humble when there is a lot of success that you get to be a part of as well, too?
Yeah, at the end of the day, success is just a scoreboard. The main sort of makeup of humans or of individuals is all the same. You could argue that Elon Musk probably still is the world's wealthiest man, or maybe he fell off that label a little bit, but you would argue that guy's amassed a ton of success, right? He's wired differently, he's built differently, he's incredible, he's very successful. But at the end of the day, like, he doesn't have somebody putting on his underwear, I don't think. He doesn't have somebody putting on his socks, I don't think. He gets dressed the same way you or I get dressed. And he deals with the same things we deal with. He has to eat, he has to shower, he has to make sure he's fed. Now, he might have people that help prepare meals for him or help, take care of some of those things to make his life easier. But at the end of the day, he's still just a human being. He's got a heart. He's got two eyeballs. He's got two ears. Like, he's just a human. And so, I think sometimes in life, Austin, we look at people and we idolize them. And one of the lessons I learned really early on in my life was it's great to have idols or heroes or mentors, but make sure you're looking to the right people for the right things. Elon Musk might not be the right guy to look for from a family perspective. I don't know what he's like as a family man, so I'm just giving you a perspective, right? Tiger Woods, an incredible golfer, look up to him for the way he competed, but maybe not the way he was with his wife. Again, not sure what really happened there, but the stories don't seem good. So you want to find people in life that you can look up to, that you can aspire to, but you want to do so in each of the different gardens of life. And so what you might look to Elon Musk for from a business perspective, you might not look to him for a husband. And so you go find a mentor or a friend who's really good at being a husband, and you look up to them for that. And so the way that I think I've stayed grounded or continue to try to stay grounded is like, I put myself in other people's shoes constantly. At the end of the day, we all have issues. We all have opportunities. We're all dealing with stuff regardless of how successful we are. And at the end of the day, the human being has sort of three core needs. We all want to be seen, we all want to be loved, and we all want to be heard. And so I just try to see people. I try to hear them. I try to love them. And then in exchange, I hope for the same in return. And at the end of the day, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But you just have to continue to try to be the best version of yourself that you can be, because that's all you have control over. As terrible as the war is in Israel right now, like, I don't have control over what the Hamas are going to do or not do. I have control over how I'm going to contribute to the aid, or I'm going to help, or how I'm going to show up, but I can't stop it. So I just try to focus on what I can control, try to be the best version of myself, surround myself with great people, and then just trust that everything else will fall into place the way it was meant to.
I love that. And what I should have started with is kind of what you do, kind of at this moment, but most of the time we just jump in. So just quick little overview of what you handle.
Yeah, look, like who I am, I think is far cooler than what I do. I'm a husband, I'm a father, very lucky to have two incredible children, great parents, great in-laws, an awesome sister who went to West Point. I've just been surrounded by incredible people my entire life, which I'm very fortunate to have, because I believe that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So when you look at the people you're hanging out with, you've got to say, like, are these the right people that are going to help hold me accountable to getting to where I want to go and help fuel me to getting to where I want to go? Now, what I get to do on a daily basis, I get to run a family office out of Austin, Texas. Has been very fortunate to work for David for the last 9.5 years. Look at this guy like a mentor, a hero, etc. Would take a bullet for the man. He married my wife and I. Was the first person to meet our children because our parents lived out of town, and just really have a cool relationship and mutual respect for one another as we navigate the business world together. As a byproduct of doing that, I've been around a group called GoBundance for about the last 10 years, even prior to joining David. Started in the back of the room as a volunteer, as a college dropout who was just serving and making sure the guys had water and the activity went as scheduled. And fast forward to today, I have the privilege and honor of being the CEO of GoBundance, and now standing in the front of the room on stages leading 930 members across the nation through different ideas, different concepts, and different conversations, all around being the best version of themselves that they can be in all aspects of life, not just wealth, but health and relationships and contribution, etc. So really just kind of pinching myself every day and trying to remain humble and trying to learn as much as I possibly can and be a steward of whatever knowledge and information and connections I have, and trying to make the world a better place one day at a time.
And one of the things that struck me, and I've seen it personally in other people, is they'll work for somebody like David, or they'll be in a group, or they'll be in a business relationship. And 5 years ago passed, 6 years ago passed, and then for whatever reason, their ego. When I was, back in the hospitality business, I'm like, my manager sucks. They're like, I could do these deals, right? You've been in part of these deals, you do. How does that not come over you? I'm sure you've seen it in other people that are like, I'm just going to do this on my own. Like, are you just so blessed to be where you are, or does it ever never comes across your mind?
At the end of the day, I've always had this mindset of, if we win the Super Bowl, regardless if I'm Tom Brady or the water boy, I still get a ring. And for me, it's not about ego. I read at a young age, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And look, we all have it, myself included. Like, it shows up, it rears its head, it happens from time to time. But at the end of the day, I have a crystal clear vision for my life. And as long as I see a path to achieving my goals and vision inside of David's world, inside of GoBundance's world, this is the right place for me. I don't need to be greedy. The grass isn't going to be greener on the other side. I know the opportunity I have. I know the opportunity I've been given. I know the opportunity I fight to continue to have. And it all fits in alignment with the vision I have for my life, for my family's life, from a contribution perspective to an economic perspective to a lifestyle perspective. And so I just really focus on what my vision is, what my goals are. And then I ask myself, is this the right opportunity to help me get there? And if the answer is no, then I have to have a hard conversation. But so far the answer is not just a yes, but a heck yes. And it continues to be that each and every day.
And do you think that because you're so focused on the heck yes, I think a lot of people drift. I think the biggest thing for me right now is that, there's just empty distractions. I just feel like a lot of people are distracted, and they let the noise of, this new thing and the crypto and all that stuff is tangible, but I feel like we're just so distracted these days. Do you see that as well too?
Yeah. And I mean, look, society has been created to distract us even more, right? There's a reason the iPhone vibrates when you get a text. There's a reason the Facebook Messenger has a different notification sound than the text message, right? Everybody is fighting for your attention every single day. And at the end of the day, you have to understand Ben Hardy's book that says willpower doesn't work. At the end of the day, you have to look at it and say willpower is like a gas tank. And so I have to first put my oxygen mask on, like they tell you in the airplane, before I put the oxygen mask on of the others. And so, there's distractions constantly. There's shiny objects constantly. There's this thing called FOMO, or fear of missing out. All of those things are popping up all the time. But at the end of the day, what are your core values? What's the vision you have for your life? And don't waste time leading someone else's vision for yours. Do you, just do you. And you've got to really be grounded. You've got to really be focused. You've got to really be sort of like that Clydesdale walking in the parade with the blinders on. You've got to be just not looking around. and you're going to stray. You're going to randomly chase something or get lost in the news or get lost in Facebook. And the trick that I've found is to not get out of that sort of trap with judgment, but rather with curiosity. Like, man, what was I running from that I needed to go, scour Facebook for 3 hours? Or, who was I trying to become chasing cryptocurrency? Or like, what was I experiencing? And then just ask questions and get back rooted into yourself and lead with a curiosity perspective. And at the end of the day, like with some grace and some vulnerability, like, I'm probably the toughest on myself, just like each and every one of the listeners is, right? And I was asked a question at a young age, like, okay, you're not a dad yet, but when you have children, if your daughter talked to herself the way you talk to yourself, what would you do? I was like, man, I'd be really sad. And he goes, well, what if her first boyfriend talked to her the way you're talking to yourself? I'm like, the kid would probably be dead, right? And so it's like, well, then why are you talking to yourself that way? Why is that okay? Now I'm not perfect. There's days where I'm critical. There's days where I'm judgmental. There's days when I'm harsh on myself. But look, I heard this quote one time that the only difference between a rut and a grave is how long you choose to lay there. So I just pick myself up, move on down the road, acknowledge where I could have improved, acknowledge where I did great, and just try to do a little bit better each and every time.
So that's a good quote. I'm going to remember that one for a long time. I've interviewed pro athletes, billionaires, people like yourself, and the number one skill that I've taken from that, Ben Newman, you name it, I've interviewed them, curiosity. But I think that we've forgotten what the word means. I think that, when I was a kid growing up, be like, oh, that kid's curious. Like he's, like I was ADHD and I dropped out of college 3 times myself and I was a drug addict. They're like, oh, but now they praise me because I'm, all those things. I think that we've forgotten as people what curiosity is. What is your definition of curiosity? Because it's the number one thing. People like you, they have a notepad out. They're always writing down notes. They're always asking questions. What do you think curiosity is when you see it in business, your definition?
Yeah, so for me, curiosity is just purely seeking awareness. I'm not seeking answers. I'm not seeking clarity. I'm just seeking awareness. And with that awareness, I have the power and ability to make different choices, similar choices, same choices, no choices. And so for me, curiosity is this unlimited potential or power to tap into my own intuition and my own awareness, to sharpen that own intuition and own awareness, and then use that as a way to make choice in the future. And whatever I deem as the right choice at that moment might not be right, because I then use my curiosity to go, how did it feel? Like, was it good? Was it bad? Did I laugh? Did I cry? Like, would I do the same thing again? Why not? And so, in the interview process, one of the things the Recruit Select process teaches you is to go 3 references deep. So you call your first reference and you say, hey, what was Matt like as an employee? And I give my cousin, they're like, he was a great guy. He showed up on time. They're like, okay, cool. Now, if you just take that feedback, you make the hire. But then you go, hey, look, I understand Matt was a great employee, but who do you know that I should know? And they go, well, hey, I have this one guy named Austin. You should connect with him. And then you talk to Austin and you go, hey, how was Matt? You're like, oh, I kind of remember him. He seemed like a good dude. I can't really remember him that much. Okay, cool. Well, who do you know that I should know? Well, hey, let me connect you to Savannah. All of a sudden you get connected to Savannah. And she goes, oh my God, I was the manager at the salon. Matt was, one of our key employees for the longest time. And then all of a sudden he just became a head case and he got a giant ego. He never showed up on time. There was a Saturday where I came, the door was still locked and nobody was there. And you go, okay, cool. Like, let me dig into Matt and his ego, right? And see if that's still there. The same is true with curiosity. The same is true with awareness. So oftentimes, Austin, I think what happens is we ask one question and then we're done. I try to ask 3 questions. So how did I feel? I felt happy. Why did I feel happy? Well, because the joy on my daughter's face was just priceless. Why was the joy on my daughter's face priceless? Because I'm giving her experiences that will last her a lifetime. Like, that's powerful. Like, that's a cool reason to make a choice, right? And so I try to go 3 levels deep on the questions I have for myself. And that to me is what brings awareness into light. And that to me is the definition of curiosity.
No, and I think that's so important because I found myself just in business when I get started, like, we didn't ask enough questions. And then you're halfway down a relationship or a business relationship or a customer relationship, and you're like, I don't want to be here. And
Yeah.
we do that from a place of like scarcity, right? And we're like, oh, this is the only real estate deal, right? Y'all look at a lot of deals. Like one of the things they talk about, I study a lot of hedge fund guys, is that being able to sit in the moment and not invest for a couple months is like mentally like the hardest thing that ever exists. Like, and I think we get, oh, they're doing deals over here and stuff, instead of asking the right question, going, should I invest right now? Should we do this thing? How do y'all stay disciplined in your, go ahead.
It all starts with your vision, man. Like, what is your investment thesis? Like, you think Warren Buffett doesn't have an investment thesis or an investment statement? Like, rule number 1, protect my capital. Rule number 2, see rule number 1 through. So like every decision he makes, the first question he asks is, what's my downside risk? And then how do I protect the downside? If he can't protect the downside, he's not going to make the investment. So, I think one of the reasons that people get caught chasing in life is because they don't have a clear vision for themselves. David has a saying, which is, and a lot of people do, which is if you don't have a vision for your life, the first person you meet every day will give you theirs. And that's true of the news. That's true of Mark Zuckerberg. That's true of Instagram. Like, whatever you want it to be, right? If you don't have your own vision, they'll give you one. So same is true with investing. If you don't have a vision for your investment, the first sponsor who pitches you a deal will give you their vision. And it's going to be, put your money in my deal. I'm going to make money regardless of if you make money. And let's hope this works out. At the end of the day, I want alignment of interest. I want to be in business with really good people that I would like to take my kids to the park with and hang out for the day, that I know, like, and trust, who have skin in the game, who put their money alongside my money, and who are transparent. And I also like to look for the ability to have control, because people ask a lot of the times, like, how do you look at risk? And I was taught risk is a lack of knowledge and a lack of control. So the way you handle risk is you learn, and then you put the right controls in place. Now you're just making a decision. You're not taking a risk.
My entire life, especially learning and investing, I always thought that they cared about the upside. And I had a guy who manages a couple billion say, I don't give a crap what you're going to do with the business. How do I not lose money? What's my risk? And that he was like, you need to change the way that you pitch these deals, because it doesn't matter. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
And it was such a weird thing, because I don't know if books are telling you that, or that's the way you view life, but it's like, that's not the way that it's supposed to be done at all. It's the other way around. And if I catch the upside, then great. And it's just a bonus on the back end.
Well, it's the way that the stories we've been told throughout our lifetime are programmed to us, right? Like, again, Warren Buffett has a statement, when people are greedy, be fearful. And when people are fearful, be greedy. But most people are like, wow, crypto's the new thing. I need to get all in on crypto. And so everybody was being greedy and going all in there. That's what school teaches us. That's what the playground teaches us. That's what our parents teach us. That's what a lot of books teach us. At the end of the day, I think one of the things from a curiosity perspective that's more powerful than anything is to challenge the status quo. And don't challenge it from a place of, I'm going to break the law and go to jail, but challenge it from a place of, like, asking questions like, why is everybody so fascinated by crypto? Like, isn't it ironic that we don't know who the founder is? Like, is there a bigger game being played here than I know? If I can't understand how a computer in a oil-based liquid can mine this thing that doesn't really exist but is here that I can trade, and I don't understand it, like, should I really be doing this? And lead with those questions and see what shows up, rather than going like, well, oh my gosh, my barber just made $3,000 buying one Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a Bitcoin. Like, what the heck's a Bitcoin, right? So, I think at the end of the day, you just have to pay attention to the narratives that have been programmed into you, not with bad intent, just because of the status quo in life. And then you have to make decisions of, do these narratives serve me? And if they don't, you've got to change them. And if they do, you just got to harness them and keep living them. But I think it all comes from a place of curiosity and just asking yourself questions.
And the biggest red flag for me, just in crypto and anything in general, it could be down to politics, which I refuse to talk with people about, is that they make their ideology about the thing. And that's what freaks me out. It's like, you not only have you adopted this new way of thing, is that anybody that challenges you against that, like, you're fighting tooth and nail. And that is a big red flag to me. That you have, like, made your absolute on this whole thing, that nothing in life is absolute. And that's what to me was to be a red flag. As I get older and get farther down the road, I find myself going back to foundational stuff, biographies, and more of understanding. Like I was reading all the new flash, and now I'm going back, and I don't know. I've seen that kind of transition in a lot of people. Of like what worked then is going to work now. More foundational frameworks of investing, business, and mindset.
I agree with that.
So you were a young guy that dropped out of school that got an opportunity. And I know that for me, the only reason why I own businesses and create more jobs is for me jobs, because I affect the family. I hope that somebody would have found me back when I was doing what I was doing and saying, hey kid, come under my wing. That didn't happen till way later on in life for me. When you're recruiting young people for your operations and your businesses and all these things, what I look for is somebody that maybe not be ready for the job, but they can grow into the job because they have a certain skill set. How do you go about recruiting young people like you were recruited to do that? And do you find a joy in that as well? Because that's how you got your start.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. If you watch the show Hard Knocks, there's this statement that Coach Robert Saleh makes, and he says, you know, eagles fly with eagles, and there's only one bird that will attack an eagle, and that's a crow. And the way that the crow will attack the eagle is it will latch onto its back. And the way that the eagle will defend itself, it will fly to an altitude where the crow can no longer breathe, and it will fall off. And so what I look for when I'm recruiting talent is I look for lineages of success in their life. You know, competitive athlete to, you know, little business they started to successfully in college, successfully dropped out and figured it out. Like, you want to find a pattern of success in humans. You know, successful people tend to hang out with other successful people, and so they're probably an eagle. But at the end of the day, like for me, it's not about the resume, it's about their traits. Like, I can't train somebody to be gritty. I can't train somebody to have integrity. I can't train somebody to have willpower. I can't train somebody to have an engine, but I can train you on how to read a legal document. I can train you on how to fill out a spreadsheet. I can train you about how to communicate with a prospective client. And so I always look for ambitious, hardworking, determined people with high integrity and like a grittiness to them. Like, I want the dude that's, you know, rocking a t-shirt with a little bit of mud on his hands going like, hey, sorry, I had a flat tire. I had to change it quick and I'm still here on time. Like, that's the guy I want to be in business. Not with the guy that calls me and says, I got a flat, we need to reschedule. So yeah. I kind of look for that. You know, one of the things David's taught me that he does so well is look for talent everywhere you go. So when you're at a restaurant, that person serving you, how do they serve you? Are they great? Are they bad? Are they fast? Are they slow? How do they show up? And then all of a sudden be like, hey, what are your goals for your life? And maybe they're a 10 out of 10 as a server, and you go, what do you want to do? Like, oh, I'd love to be an administrative assistant. I've always been interested in that. Like, oh, cool. Well, you know, ironically, I have an opportunity. I'd love to sit down and talk to you and learn more about what you're looking for in your next opportunity. And you've already seen that person in the arena. You've already seen them in the game because they've been your server. So you've got like a little bit of a head start, whereas if you just post a job and you get an application, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool, let's talk to this person and see if they're good. So you always try to see people in opportunities. And then, you know, I tell people all the time, talent's not looking for a job, it's looking for an opportunity. So find somebody that's employed, go hire them away and give them an opportunity better than what they had at that last place.
Dude, when I came on in January, we had 19 employees. We grew to 48 in 5 months. For me, no job postings. Two of the guys, one guy sold me iPads for the company, and he wouldn't leave me alone. And I said, if I respond to you, will you just leave me alone? He goes, what credit card do you want to use? And I was like, dude, This guy's a killer. So Verizon store guy, now he's selling HVAC and plumbing. He went from selling $1,000 phones, now he's selling $60,000 systems. And he's like, dude, my whole life changed. And I was like, yeah, because you didn't give up on me and you made it the sale no matter what you were doing. And it's been such a great, you know, to see him grow and what it's done for his family. Like, there's no better joy than that. And I agree with you. Like, talent is all over the place and they're just itching for a job. They're not going to be looking. It's just simple as that. They're not. Yeah.
And then the next level sort of mastery is, now that you have the talent, how do you retain the talent? And the way you retain talent is you pour into them and you show them that it's more than just about the sale. What are your goals? What's your vision? What are you going to do for yourself? What are you going to do to make your life better? Hey, your health's falling out of check. How can I help you? And when you start to show people that you care about them as a human and them in the role, they'll run through a brick wall for you. People, again, just want to be seen, loved, and heard. So when you see him, when you hear him, when you love on him, like, he's going to fight tooth and nail to continue to provide for you and your company, which ultimately will serve his vision and his goals.
And that's why he was up there Sunday rewiring the internet, because that's what he does, you know? Like, I didn't even ask him, you know? So one of the things I find interesting about you that I kind of see in myself is I've seen like 6 interviews you've been on. You've never been in the same place. 9 times out of 10, you're on a patio or you're in, you don't have an office. I love that about you, that you're here to provide value. You're not worried about what it looks like. There is something to be said to just be you and show up. Like, I know you're not like intentionally doing that, but I notice things like that. And I think it's so cool, man. It is, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's really cool.
Because you're allowing yourself, meaning you, to be you, and that's it. There's not some predetermined box you're trying to put yourself in. It's so awesome. And that one thing right there tells me more about you than any of your accolades.
Yeah, thank you, man. That means a lot. My wife harps on me all the time, and she's an amazing, incredible human. I'm so lucky to be married to her, but she harps on me all the time. Like, are you going to wear those same black jeans and that same black t-shirt and that same hat backwards? And I'm like, this is who I am. Like, take me or leave me. I don't care, but I'm not going to sacrifice myself for anyone or anything, right? Like, I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. And I'm going to show up, you know, with that sort of intention every single day. And, you know, I don't need the fancy desk, or, you know, David was giving me shit for about a year because the old office chair I used at his house was like peeling and falling apart. He's like, dude, get a new chair. I'm like, the chair works fine. Like, I don't need a new chair. Like, I'm sick of seeing the peeling all over the ground. I'm like, I'll vacuum it up. Like, we don't need to spend $150 on a new chair. Like, this chair works great. And finally, he got someone else to order the new chair because he knew I wouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't need a bunch of fancy stuff to be the best version of myself. I just need the opportunity to be myself, and a nice, comfortable sweatshirt, some black jeans, and a hat, and I'll be good.
Let me make the leap, right? Let me look into my crystal ball. That what you just said, I don't even need to go look at the P&Ls of your company to know that they're ran the right way. And it has nothing to do with the $150 chair. It has to do with the mindset. It has to do with the mindset saying, no, let's go run a profitable, lean business. Let's make sure that we're structured properly. We don't need the trappings of success. We don't need the fancy BS and all this stuff. We're just going to go out and do what we do best. And that correlates into your statement about grit. You need somebody that's willing to go get it done. One of the first things I did when I took over this company that we bought is it was 20 degrees outside. My oldest tech, who's 70 years old, who's forgotten about more than anything, he had to wire the house with a bunch of other guys, and I was like, I'll do it. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're the owner. And I go, okay, I'll be back. I put on a jumpsuit. I went out. He goes, you're not really going to get under there, are you? I'm like, yeah, I told you I would. And so I did it. And he was like, not going to lie to you, I don't think I've ever seen that in my career. He's like, but I got mad respect for you. And it was like, that was it right there. Like that, doing that. And they were like, would you want to go on a plumbing call? I'm like, yeah, give me the sewer. I want the shit backing up. And they're like, why? And I'm like, no, I don't. This isn't like, I'm trying to show you that I'm not above you. And what I always do, this is a little trick. I don't want to give away my secrets. I can't stand the office being dirty, like with dirt when we live in Pennsylvania. But like, I'll wait to sweep until they show up to work so they see me sweep. And I'll always grab trash. I'll always grab trash and walk by them because I want them to see that I'm picking up the trash. Like, it's nothing. And I know this is like little things I'm giving y'all, but this is like everything. This is the game behind the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's so powerful, man. And the next level of that is doing it without them there, because you don't need them to see it, but you just need to do it for you.
Yes.
And when you know,
100%.
you're gonna get there because you're earning their respect and their trust. And at the end of the day, you're gonna go, this is just for me. And the sooner we can recognize those traits and those things, like the other day I was flying to Cincinnati, and it was just a quick day trip. Like I landed at like 11 p.m., had a meeting in the morning, and then came back at like 2 p.m. the next day. So I'm walking through the Cincinnati airport at 11 p.m., like me and the 14 other people who landed on the plane. And there's this gentleman, he was probably 60, 70 years old, and he was sweeping the floor, and he was listening to music. He looked happy as can be, sweeping the floor. And I just, stopped him and said, like, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, I'm really appreciative that you're here doing this. Like, someone's got to do the job. You're doing a great job. And I just hope you have a good rest of your day. And that's like a little pattern I picked up from my father-in-law. Like, he goes all the time to people, and he goes like to the server, to the whoever, he goes, did anybody tell you you're doing a wonderful job today? And it literally cost me nothing. The guy lit up like a Christmas tree. It was free. And so I think we need to pause and
that's my dad through and through. Yeah, that's my dad through and through. Like, there's a meme, because you're not on social media, but there's a meme where Rock is in a golf cart, and the top it says, me here driving and being an introvert, and then Rock singing on a cart, meeting our cab driver, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's the valet, the guy cleaning the bathrooms, like the server, the busboy, the bread, like that's where I learned it from. Was like everybody, no matter who the person, and that guy is probably going to think about you saying to him for the next couple months. It's a big deal.
Well, and my hope and dream is that he takes that positive energy and gives it to someone else. And then it's a Starbucks in line game where you buy the coffee for the person behind you and see how many lines it can go. It's not about necessarily how I can impact that one human, but how that impact on that human can impact the lives of so many others. That excites me.
So I have one last question. When you're in a group like you are, Go Abundance, and then you work where you work, I would say the biggest thing that people have a problem with is I tell them that the oxygen is different where we are, the accountability is different. How do you describe, because speed, right? You're moving fast. There's a high level of standards and accountability. How does somebody that's leveling up, maybe they haven't been in an organization like that, how does one get up to that level? Because they have so much anxiety. Like I tell them all the time, like, you're not me, don't try to be us. But like, they want to be up there. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, the standards are so high, they've never been around any, and a lot of people get offended. Like, wow, that's a lot you're asking of me. But it's like, this is the ticket on the ship.
Yeah. So for me, the ticket on the ship, for lack of better terms, is you can't be interested in living a big life. You can't be interested in being a great husband. You can't be interested in being a good dad. You have to be obsessed with it. And when you become obsessed with it, you then become very intentional with the time and with your activities. And so, to your point, like the oxygen in the air is different. Like it is, because it's an intensity to it, because there's an obsession around it. And when there's an obsession, there's a focus on the intentionality behind every single thing I do, and around the efficiencies around every single thing I do. So a great example would be Kobe Bryant. The reason Kobe Bryant flew in helicopters was because he wanted to fit as much as possible into his days. And he knew that sitting in traffic for an hour wasn't going to allow him to do that. So he's like, can I get in a helicopter and take my commute from an hour to 15 minutes so that I can be more intentional with my kids for breakfast, or get to the gym 2 hours before practice and still get home for dinner? Like, he was super, super intentional because he was obsessed with leaving an impact. He was obsessed with impacting lives. He was obsessed with being a good father. And so I think the difference is an obsession, not an interest.
I love that. One of the greatest things my mentor taught me, it sounds trite, but he said, dude, if you got a meeting, he's like, fly in the morning and fly out in the afternoon. And I was like, what? And he's like, dude, I do it all the time. And so I did it a couple times, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And I was like, you get to knock out what you need to, but still not take a day away from your family. Like it's those little things, those little levels of efficiency that create it. So if people want to follow you around, they want to hear about Go Abundance, how would they do that?
Yeah, I mean, Go Abundance is just goabundance.com. It's an incredible organization. I actually just provided a state of the tribe to the members yesterday. The cumulative net worth of our group is just over $4.3 billion, which is, you know, a cool little scoreboard, if you will, but it just shows you the level of people inside of the organization. I am on social media. I don't personally check it or pay attention to it. I have an incredible team that helps me navigate it all, but I am on social media and can get you those links so you can share them. And at the end of the day, like, I just give out my email. It's just matt@gobundance.com. If you need anything, you want anything, just email me. The cool thing is, and this will be the time where it backfires on me, but I've probably spoken on 10, 15 different stages, probably 10 different podcasts. Every time I give out my email and I get one email. Like, most people don't take the risk.
I got to tell you a story.
So
Here's a perfect story. I've been on 750 podcasts. I've done the exact same thing. I've got 3 messages total. Guess what one of those messages were? My fiance.
Oh, there you go. That's cool, man. That's cool.
So I totally agree with what you're saying, man. You know, all you have to do is ask. You don't know if you're not going to send the email. If you're thinking about it, do it. I can't thank you enough, man. I would tell you this, and I know you're a humble guy, but Tim Rode and who's taught me more about life than anybody's ever taught me, and Jamie and everybody, they talk about your character. I've heard nothing about how great you are at business, and that tells me all I need to know about what you stand for, who you are. So thank you for being you, man.
Thanks.
And I appreciate your time, man.
Thanks. That means a lot. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me.
You got it. Guys, if you got some value, send it to your friend, and we'll see you next.